All right, we are live. Sorry I took so long to get this going, but I know some of you. What's up, King? How are you? Yo, King, I'm gonna wear your shirt tomorrow, dude. I dropped the ball. I'm gonna wear that on my next scope tomorrow night. What's up, everybody that's joining? How's it going? Canine Rules, Lady, Trisha, Mr. Juan, Wilsons, what's up? Good to see you guys in here. Hearts flowing already. Linda, how are you? Kathy, very nice. So I'm gonna do a Blake's Takes scope tomorrow on pushing the value of being pushed. Yeah, I'll send you that. I'll send you that over like message so you can have that info. The value of being pushed and what pushing actually does, and how I've applied that in my life, what I push for. I can tell you right now, I'm the type of person that's pretty damn good at doing a lot of things, and I have a competitive nature where I'm gonna push myself to get better. And a lot of you know I just started training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the more you go, it qualifies you to start training in other ways. And I can tell you, it is the most humbling thing that I have done and stuck with in a while. I'm regularly getting my ass kicked, and I'm regularly pushing myself to get better. And there's a small ego that is perfect for me and what I need, because it keeps giving me that dose of humble pie, and I keep going back because my attitude and my competitive nature says, this is not gonna keep happening. I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna learn how to do this. And it actually applies to dog training as well. But let's get into bark collars and all that good stuff. I actually just finished going to class. I raced home, jiu-jitsu, hung out with the wife for a little bit, and now I'm here. I'll show you guys what we got going on. So I'm early for my game because I wasn't sure. It's been a while since I played hockey, but I have a D2 hockey game. So Tuesday nights I play D2 hockey, Thursday nights I play D1 hockey. What's up? How are you? So I'm early. I have a 10 o'clock game. Just got here. This is what we got going on. See if this guy scores right here. Scrubs. I'll school all of them. So this is one thing that I'm actually good at. Believe it or not, I know I don't fit the description of hockey player, but I'm actually really good at that. Yeah, I'm always tired. So I have a game at 10, but I got a little bit of time. I was like, you know what, let's scope. So we're going to talk about bark collars, right? And then if I have a little bit of time, I don't have to start getting ready till around like 9:30, 9:40 for my 10 o'clock game. It doesn't take me long to get ready. So let's jump into bark collars. I know a lot of people have been asking questions about it. My thoughts on bark collars, and do I use them, and this, that, and the third. So first thing I'm going to go ahead and say is that just like anything else, I believe the tool has its place. I think it can get taken advantage of, and it can very easily, for some people, become the fix that they pass their responsibility onto. So we do use those collars, which are different from remote collars, right? The ones that we use are Garmin Bark Limiter Deluxe. What makes it a deluxe is the fact that it's rechargeable. The thing that I like about Garmin's bark collars is that they have a number of different levels. And this is the cool thing, it actually tracks progression, which I think is really awesome for me, because for me, a bark collar is not a forever tool. It's a tool that's helping me to get to a certain place, right? So it's like the physical rehab. Yeah, I'm gonna use this crutch, but I don't wanna stay on the crutch forever. I'm gonna use this knee brace, but I don't wanna be in the knee brace forever. So I'm gonna tell you about a little bit how it helps us. When you're dealing with anxiety in dogs, it depends on the type of anxiety, but for the most part, you cannot just correct and say, don't be anxious. It's not something that dogs know how to do, right? So when you're regularly applying relaxation exercises and calming exercises and doing this and implementing place, and you're teaching a dog how to go in and out of the crate, and they're feeling, leash pressure to help them with a down, they know how to relax in there, and you're working on that. The last thing that you want is a dog to practice the behaviors that they're not allowed to when you're not around, because that sets you back, right? So what we do is we use bark collars, but we use it in very systematic kind of way, so I'm going to break this down. The bark collars that we use have 7 levels. Now, bark collars in general are more correction based, so level 1 you feel at a greater, I guess, just a higher stim than you would like level 1 or level 10 of a remote collar or something like that, right? So what we do is we put the bark collar on the dog and we put it on the lowest possible setting. 9 out of 10 dogs, yeah, what's up with the hearts, guys? 9 out of 10 dogs, I like your hearts because it matches, right, style. Out of 10 dogs for level 1, if they have anxiety, it's not enough to shut a dog up. That's not the goal. Belize dog trainer, is that Heather? Is that Heather Beck? Belize dog trainer? I know that you have a place in Belize or something like that. I just saw you joined. Are you on there? Heather's friend, awesome, cool, very cool. Kathy, how are you, Kathy? So it's level 1 is not enough to shut a dog up, and for me, that's not the goal. So my goal is to put it on the lowest possible setting so that a dog can feel something when they bark. And this is very important. The bark collars that we use are electronic stimulation, all right? Now, I'm going to explain the difference between like citronella sprays and electronic stimulation in a minute, but I'll get to this. So we use electronic stimulation. People will market the citronellas as more humane. I beg to differ, and I'm going to explain that. I know that sounds crazy, right? So we put on the lowest possible setting, and the goal is for them to bark, feel. Bark, feel. Bark, feel. Bark, feel. And I'll give them 24 hours, sometimes even more, right? Sometimes even 48, to go through that. Assuming that the dog is not self-destructive, right? It's not like barking and they get to the point where they're breaking teeth on a crate, which those are extreme cases. That's very rare that you're dealing with that. Usually it's just the chaos, and then eventually a dog like pants and relaxes. So I let them go through that. They finally stop. They relax, that wave is not there, and they go, that's interesting. That sensation that I felt that wasn't enough to shut me up stops every time I'm quiet. Interesting. So what we do throughout that process is we're also, throughout the day, we're working a dog for food. We're teaching them how to lure, how to free shape, right? How to down when they're holding it down for food. We're transferring that to also leash pressure with a hand, so the dog is feeling pressure, knowing how to down, that relieves pressure, also helping with something they know how to do, which is with food. Eventually we jump to the remote collar, and on very low levels, we're having them feel with leash pressure and what they would do. When they down, pressure is relieved. When they down, pressure is relieved. When they down, pressure is relieved, right? Throughout that process, we're also teaching them like impulse control exercises, let's say like holding a place. So there's 2 different parts to place. There's sending and then there's staying. What's up, Samiji? How are you? The staying portion allows you, in most situations, to start to work on your interrupters. So an interrupter can be done in a variety of different ways. It can be done with a verbal cue or marker, like nope, followed by leash pressure or spatial pressure and leash pressure. You know what I mean? So what your dog kind of knows. And those kind of interrupters, when done right, when the timing is right, are interrupting the state of mind from the dog kind of moving. So it's an interruption, and then if they know down on place, down, interruption, down, interruption, down. And you're doing those interruptions usually without a remote collar. Eventually you jump to that, because once the dog knows how to do it, now you're teaching them a new language. Hey, you know how to do that? When you feel this, it's the same thing. Let me kind of walk you through that. So the dog starts to get really, really good at that. About 24 to 48 hours, if a dog is still going crazy, and remember we can track progress with the bark collars that I use, we bump up to the next level, level 2. That's a little bit more. We give the dog the same amount of time to get used to that. Some dogs, level 2, it's all they need. They go, whoa, because what's happening is they're raising into an anxious state. They go, boom, and then they feel that and they go, whoa, and it interrupts them. It's not supposed to fix, it's supposed to interrupt them. And then they go, well, what am I supposed to do now? And then they get worked up again, and then they feel it, and they go, okay, I'm not supposed to do that. I felt interrupters before. What's the choice that I've made before that, you know what if I just relax? And then they relax for a little, they get a taste of that, they go, they're stressing in the beginning, like, okay, this is really, really tough, I don't know. And then they go, you know what, actually, this doesn't feel that bad. And it's like, and then usually anxiety comes in waves. So you have these waves where they go, okay, this feels good. No, I can't do this. Huff, 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 bark, boom. And then they feel it again. And they go, whoa, okay. Let me rethink this. What if I relax? So now you have what I call the babysitter, which is serving as an interrupter to remind them of what happens when you are around. So if you're doing it right and you're doing it systematically, you can really have the bark collar help you with an anxious dog. You have to make sure not to dial up to levels too quick before the dog knows it, and you have to make sure you're doing a bunch of other stuff with the dog to help them be successful. You don't want them necessarily figuring that out on their own, if that makes sense, right? Now let's go into electronic stimulation versus citronella. Now, what will be marketed is citronella not being something that, let's say, causes pain, or that's usually what it's associated with, because we just spray citrus and it's an aversive that will get the dog to stop. I think it's actually worse than electronic stimulation, and here's why. Dogs pretty much learn in the moment. They do something, their timing, what's up, Chris? Your timing interrupts right there. They stop, you stop, right? And that's pretty much kind of like the rhythm. Dude, I'm going to be rusty, man. I haven't played in a minute. So this is our captain. Come here for a sec. Say hi. There's people. Look at that stud. Isn't he a stud?
I can't even see who I'm talking to.
Oh, I got the screen protection. No, it's just it's Periscope, so it's live.
Oh, okay.
Just doing like some dog training stuff in the meantime.
Cool.
But then we got a game, right? And then that's when I turn into a jerk. I got to get mentally prepared. Exactly. Yeah. So where was I? So citronella. If I was to spray any of you guys with citrus, because you're just annoying me, you're talking, oh my God, shut up, spray you with citrus, right? You're going to stop and you're going to smell it. And what's going to happen is after you stop, you're still going to smell it. And this is a human nose, way less sensitive than a dog's nose, right? We don't have to get into the science with everything, but that's a fact. We all know that, right? I actually forget the exact the difference in I forget the word, receptors or whatever it is, right? I'm not the science guy here. So you're going to smell that for a while after, probably hours, the same way you would if someone just sprayed you with cologne. That's not going to go away after you stop. So imagine a dog who has a much, much softer and more sensitive nose, who is doing something inappropriate, gets sprayed with citrus, stops, learns its lesson, but is still getting punished, right? Definition of punishment, you guys know that. Still getting punished for something that they stopped a long time ago. So it's like, well, I stopped. Well, do you want me to go again? And then they bark again and they get sprayed again, and you start getting a dog that's stressed, doesn't know what to do because they're smelling this for hours, long after they stop. So maybe they try again and they get sprayed again, and now you're stressing the dog out. The dog doesn't know how to escape that, right? That can be, what's up, Leroy? That can be extremely, extremely stressful and actually drive a dog up, right? Because it's still going on. Now with the electronic stimulation, they bark, it stops. They bark, they stop. Bark, stops. And what happens is they have the ability to control that and understand how to avoid it, but then also before they even are in control of that, and they kind of think from that logical point of view, it's basically just serving as an interrupter. And if you practice interrupters in other parts of the dog's life, it becomes very easy for them to be successful, right? Whether they realize that they're in control of it or not. So that's kind of my belief system with bark collars and the ones that we use. Now, there are some bark collars that only have certain levels. There's some bark collars that have like automatic, where it automatically jumps little by little. I've yet to come across a bark collar that gives each level enough time for the dog to process and understand what's going on before raising. If you jump up too quickly, a level that might have been appropriate for a dog down the road, let's say level 3, if you jump up too quickly, can freak a dog out if they don't know what to do. So you have to really give the dog time, usually 24 to 48 hours. So I say 12 to 48 hours. You really got to feel the dog out with feeling the minimal level. That's not enough to shut them up. Give them that time. Then the same amount of time for the next level. And the cool thing is you can track progression. So usually the goal is not for a dog to be barking 100 times and then all of a sudden go to 1. Because that might be too much. The goal is for it to slowly start to decline. So if you see a decline on level 2, then you go, you know what, let me stick with this for a little bit. It's gone from 60 barks to now 30 barks. And then it was 40 one day. Oh, it's back to 30. Let me see where this goes. If it kind of stays there after a while, then I go, okay, you know what, let me go to the next one. And then you slowly start to decrease that anxiety and that barking, which helps with the noise. Doesn't mean that your dog's necessarily less anxious yet, but it helps them from building up. And usually if you practice a lot of downs, it's an interruption and they go into a down. There's something about the physical positioning of down that helps a dog to relax versus when they're sitting or they're standing. You know what I mean? And you'll notice when a dog is really, really, really freaking out, they're never laying down, right? I don't believe the contacts can at all. It definitely has to be snugger than a remote collar, but at the same time, what's up, Peter? How are you? Dave, what's up, brother? But I do believe, at least I've never seen it. I mean, because that's not crushing pressure that you're putting on. What can is like a flat buckle collar or something that has like constant pressure from a dog pulling. Wow, my throat is messed up from jiu-jitsu. I just felt that. But that's I've never heard of that ever, actually. I mean, like there's way more pressure coming from like a prong collar, like, and I don't even see damage to that. It's extremely rare unless you're using it the wrong way. So that's that. I'm not going to rant or ramble about that for too long, but if you guys have some questions, we'll do some questions. I might do a super late night scope tonight. I'm not sure, but I'm sure you guys might have some questions about that, so we'll get into that. And I got about like 5 minutes, then I got to start getting ready. So it doesn't have to be about that. It can be about anything also if you guys have questions. Peter, you got to get a better connection, buddy. See you keep joining and leaving, joining and leaving. No questions? Oh, I'm tired. I'm going to be so rusty out there. You hit the X. Oh, how do you keep your dog's motivation up? Okay, during training. It really depends on what you're trying to do. Sometimes, overall, like food is probably one of the better ways to kind of food and your energy. Your energy wants to match food. Sometimes a dog doesn't know certain choices that they're making, so you want a dog to really be aware. Basic commands and tricks: work the dog for their mealtime over and over and over for their food. Work them, and get them to the point where like this is how they live their life all the time. You know what I mean? Like, okay, what do I have to do now? When they realize they're responsible for what they get and don't get, what's up, brother? When they realize they're responsible for what they get and don't get, they start really wanting to work more because they have the opportunity to get more, right? If I work more and I'm going into, Quill, would you join the Periscope late? That's the first thing I went into. Echo is super calm in the crate now. And what we had to do with Echo was we had to jump to a stronger interrupter without giving him the time. Now, this is a very, very rare situation, but the situation, yeah, you got to keep doing it. Stop giving her food outside of that. The only way she gets food is through that. She doesn't want to work, put the food away, come back to it for dinner. She doesn't want to work for dinner, don't give her another shot, come back to it for breakfast the next morning. Stick with it, and your dog will develop drive, I promise you. I promise, as long as your timing is good. We're using Garmin Bark Limiter Deluxe, and the reason I like that is because you can track progress, right? You can leave the bark collar on when your dog is like struggling. I typically don't have it on when I'm around unless I'm not supervising, I'm not in a way to kind of interrupt, right? I didn't see that, Haley, I'm sorry. What was your question? I don't use it on the walk. I'll interrupt because the thing is I tend to use bark collars on babysitter. It goes, on the bark box. It's not like a remote collar where you side it. It goes there. I don't use it on the walk. Another reason too is a lot of times the ones that we use are based off of vibration, not off of sound, and I don't want like my leash pressure or the dog kind of shaking its head like and hitting collar or something to oh, you're Echo's parents, I didn't know that, to set the bark collar off. So if I'm out, I use it as a babysitter, meaning like you're going to implement the rules while I'm gone. When I'm around, then I'm going to implement the rules, right? That might be with a leash, with a remote collar, with my vocal, with physical touch, whatever it is. So that's that. What was the other question? How long do you leave it on? I leave it on for when I feel the dog would need it. You know what I mean? And I make sure it's not super, super tight, but I make sure it's not super loose either, because the ones that we use do have to touch, they do have to vibrate. That's another thing. I prefer the ones that are off vibration because it's for that specific dog versus some that are off of sound. Another dog next door could be barking and that could set it off, and that wouldn't be fair, right? I usually don't measure by strap. I measure by where the contact points are with my fingers. I go, is that touching skin? Okay, cool. On super fluffy furry dogs, it has to be tighter. You know, short skin dogs, then you have nothing to worry about. So that's that, guys. I got a boogie. I got to get ready. Got to tear it up and win this game. All right, I'm going to head over to the locker room. I'll bring you guys into the locker room before I... Thank you. I play defense, actually, so it might not be... maybe I will. Maybe I'll score a couple of goals. Let you know. What I plan on doing, I've been planning on doing it for a while, is actually GoProing a game and then uploading it on YouTube, as a lot of people have been asking to kind of see what I do outside of... so there's my locker right here. Outside of... my hockey stick right here. Of, you know, not outside of dog training and stuff like that. But... Shut up, King. But the problem with that is the moment you have that on your helmet, people are gunning for you even more, and they already don't like me because I agitate people, and I do it on purpose. So that's that, guys. I will see you on the next scope. I might do another late night one tonight, but we're going to get the ball rolling, and we're going to start doing a lot more, right? All right, guys. Have a good night. Later.